No. There you go.
Hi everybody, it's the CC and JT Amateur Hour where production values go to die, and someday we're going to be doing a blooper reel because yeah, doing this first thing on a Sunday morning before coffee, it's funny.
Yes, it is.
It's hilarious, it's funny. Anyway, we're back at home base, we're back at the worldwide headquarters where production values go to die, and it is July 28th, Sunday, July 28th.
Wow.
This month really flew, of course.
It really did.
We spent, what, 10 days of it
10
on the road?
10 days on the road, yep.
Well, and didn't we spend, when did we go? Okay, never mind. I'm getting my trips mixed up here.
Yes.
So, so over here at CC, the better half of the CC and JT Amateur Hour.
Not true, but over here is JT, who
Yeah.
I think is the better half of the duo.
Yeah. Well, I'm years older than her. So,
oh, yes. JT did celebrate his birthday this past week on the road. We were in Port McNeill, weren't we?
Yeah, Port McNeill, British Columbia, up the coast of Vancouver.
Vancouver Island,
Vancouver
all
Island.
the way, almost to the very tip.
Yeah,
pretty close to the top of the island.
Very pretty up there. We should get some pictures online.
Very remote.
And we were having all sorts of driving fun. It was an experience. We're going to be talking about our Canada experience. By the way, we still love Canada.
Yes.
We still love Canada. It's really a great, and we got swag. Oh dear God, we got swag.
We have a few things, yes.
Yeah, we have a few things. We'll get to that in a second. If you're new to our experience, what you have here are two riders of a certain age. And
I think somebody is really feeling his age right now after all the driving he did.
And so what we do is we're trying to impart our life experience and our writing experience. So hopefully you don't make the same mistakes we do.
Or at least you go into making your decisions a little bit forewarned.
Yep. And just very quickly in book stuff, we did a book release also on my birthday. So
pre-sale.
Pre-sale.
The book is not out yet. It is on pre-sale.
Right.
It will be released in September.
Right. Pre-sale.
But the Serving Salvation, JT's long project space epic. So this is book one of a trilogy.
Right.
With a potential prequel.
Right.
And pretty much you're working on the prequel, right?
Yeah, I don't know what I'm working on right now.
But the 3-book trilogy is done. The first book is done.
Right.
Did the cover reveal on the road.
Yep.
Did the pre-sale on the road. So that was an interesting experience, and maybe that's something you want to talk about for a minute.
No, just doing things remotely because, thankfully we're in the 21st century because all of this would have been impossible in the 20th century. But did all the technical release and social media and everything, the fun stuff, on the road, which is fascinating stuff. But it's also, we talked about being a full-time writer. Being a full-time writer, the job, you don't leave the job doesn't leave you. So here we are, 1,500 miles away from, home base, from the worldwide headquarters. And I'm doing social media, I'm doing a pre-release. As a matter of fact, the Amazon book went belly up, the e-version. And so fortunately, I uploaded all of my materials up onto the cloud. And I actually was recreating the e-version of my book,
on the road.
On the road, I actually had to do it in a hotel room, so from scratch. So, the EPUB, the cover, all the associated stuff on Amazon, the big elephant in the room. I'm not saying that to, just say, "Woo, look at me." I'm saying that as a full-time writer, these are things that you have to adjust for, you have to do. If I hadn't done that, I would have been just, if I hadn't uploaded onto the cloud, I would have been really freaking out.
Yes. It was, it's always an interesting experience when you're doing something like that, a big release or something, because it's stressful.
Yeah.
You never know when something is going to glitch, or maybe you forgot to do something. So doing it while you're on the road after a long day of driving, which is what we were doing, is difficult.
But I managed to get it up. It's up ready for pre-sale. So go crazy, folks. Buy it. And also, Sheriff of Nevada is still up for 99 cents, and I'll leave it out there for the duration of this podcast. The advertising for this podcast just a little bit longer to entice you. Okay.
That's probably, I think, currently your most popular book is Sheriff of Nevada, and it is a really good book. It's about Sheriff Maggie, who's the sheriff of a fictional Nevada town in
County,
a fictional county. So, but it is, people from Nevada who have read it feel that it's very authentic, because obviously we are longtime Nevadans. So it is something, definitely a good one to check out. It's going to be the polar opposite of the space epic.
Oh, that's true.
Completely different genre. So we do have a variety of books in different genres for you to try out. So
yeah, maybe someday we'll figure stuff out and pick a genre. But for now, we're moving forward. So let's talk about traveling just very quickly. Of course, if you've done any kind of road trips, air trips, or anything like that, you got to pick up swag. You got to pick up stuff. And so we're just going to very quickly here show off some stuff that we picked up in our house is just brimming with stuff like this. So Vanna, what have we got?
Writing related front, we went to Powell's City of Books in Portland. These are JT's finds. And we went into the rare book room, which was probably our favorite place. Powell's is an overwhelming experience. I knew it was a big bookstore, but I did not realize how big it was until we got inside. So JT got those, and then I got a copy of a book by my favorite author, Georgette Heyer, and this is actually the version of the book I read in the 1970s. That is the first version. It's a library copy, and probably overpaid for this one. It's not like it's a first.
Oh, yeah.
There was a first edition there of another book, but this is my favorite of the books that they had available. And when I saw the cover, it really, triggered those memories. So being in that rare book room at Powell's Books was amazing.
Oh yeah, and if we haunted garage stores, we probably would have gotten those for $0.25, but because they're wrapped in plastic and they were at Powell's, we got the privilege of paying more.
Don't forget, we also, which you didn't do, we're supposed to get a pass to go into the room. So, I mean, the room is very enclosed, and there are books in there that are very rare and precious. There are large book collections, like a series of specific types of books and things that are. What was the one you were looking at?
I was looking at the Douglas Adams Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, and it was one of their, I don't know if it was a first edition, but it was autographed, and it was a very early edition, and it was it's like, I thought it said $200, and I'm walking back and forth in the room going, yeah, maybe, and then I went back and looked again, it was actually $1,200, which, okay.
Yes, but it's that kind of thing where there was a reason why the books were in there. They weren't just general throw them on the shelf type of books. So it just turned out that we found some books that these are probably not quite as rare or precious as some of the books they had in there, but they were meaningful to us, which is why we picked them up.
Okay, what else we got?
So then this was actually before we hit Portland, but it goes along with the theme of our trip. We found this in a little gift shop near a quirky cafe. It was actually attached to the quirky cafe, Nature's Kitchen in, I believe it's Wairika, California.
Yeah.
That
good food.
We, part of the trip, we were going to Portland to see an exhibit at the Portland Art Museum with some Monet.
Yep.
And just happened to see this puzzle, so that was fun. And then we have the swag that we got on one of the ferries. That one, we actually got, the ferry's name was the Queen of Cowichan. And I bought a new umbrella to replace my umbrella that kind of decided to give up on me in Portland during a very heavy thunderstorm, which was pretty fun. But the poor umbrella had seen better days. So I got a new umbrella, got a snack, and got the impulse buy were the playing cards.
Just as quick diversion, we did 2 ferries, one to and one away from Vancouver Island, and those ships and the way that they've got things organized to board those ships and to disembark with 400 cars and hundreds, if not thousands, of people. It's just really it's a model of efficiency, and we're going to talk about efficiency here in a second. And I'm looking at you, state of Washington. Okay, I'm not over it.
I can't remember. I believe this may have been when we crossed the border into Washington, or else we were in Oregon, but we stopped off at a little gas station, and very nice lady. They had a little kind of gift shop area next to the register. So again, another impulse buy, but I couldn't do the Pacific Northwest without getting a Sasquatch / Bigfoot item. And then, of course, JT can talk about this one.
Yeah, this is, we had to, of course, stop at Tim Hortons, and I don't even remember where the Tim Hortons was, but
it was near Nanaimo.
Yeah, it was, but if you go to Canada, you got to go to Tim Hortons, and they're celebrating an anniversary. Can you figure out which anniversary they're celebrating?
That mug is awesome, by the way.
Yeah, this mug is just really, it's
I like the
pretty
shape.
cool. I like the design, and it's really eye-catching, and I have a hankering for cups, unusual shaped coffee mugs like this, and I'm looking forward to doing this. And then, of course,
then we got the travel mug version for myself, which is branded with Canada scenery, which that does look a lot like the Pacific Northwest portion of Canada. Absolutely gorgeous. And we can say that it looks different than Ontario, which is where we were several months ago. Ontario looks like the upper Midwestern United States, whereas the British Columbia version is obviously connected to the Pacific Northwest of the United States. So very different scenery, very beautiful. It was absolutely gorgeous up there.
Quick trivia, tallest mountain on Vancouver Island is over 7,000 feet. And it's like, really? Wow. Okay.
Then, of course, this was a JT impulse item when we were visiting Butchart Gardens in Victoria. The gardens were absolutely incredible, gorgeous, well worth the trip, but we bought a few things there and wore ourselves out walking around those gardens. The gardens were extensive and impressive, and part of it, there's a sunken garden there that's actually a reclaimed quarry. You would not believe that it was a quarry at one point, because we drove by a quarry or a working quarry, and the what they did with that sunken garden, absolutely amazing, so beautiful. And I did take a lot of pictures at Butchart Gardens that we will be posting.
Yeah, definitely worth your YouTube time if you are so inclined.
Oh, yes. They have seasonal events. They plant seasonally. So it is definitely worth looking up. There are some 4K videos on YouTube of the gardens. And then the last impulse buy in Klamath Falls yesterday, we found another cute, quirky little cafe for lunch. And then there happened to be an antique shop a few doors down. And anybody who knows me knows that I collect Coca-Cola items. That is actually a bottle that ranges in between the 1930s and 1950s. It's hefty. And it was a Yakima, Washington bottle, actually, because it's impressed on the bottom. I have to do a little bit of research about the type of bottle that this is, because it does not feel like a modern Coke bottle. It is much more hefty. I was saying, if I was writing a murder mystery,
that would do it.
In the dining room with the Coke bottle kind of situation. So we didn't pick up a ton of things, but we picked up a few meaningful items for us.
Yep.
And it was a great trip overall. I think we had a really good time.
State of Washington. I'm looking at you.
Except
State of Washington. Okay, first of all, if you are going to Canada, we do recommend going through
Port Angeles.
Port Angeles. We did not do that. That was a mistake.
Yes.
Because going through Port Angeles helps you avoid Seattle. Now, I'm not going to get on Seattle traffic because it's a big city.
It is a metropolitan area.
It is a metropolitan area. It's a big city. So, yes, you're going to expect slowdowns through there. So, if you can avoid Seattle, avoid Seattle. I'd heard rumors about the traffic in Seattle before we went, and they are absolutely true. But I'm not going to go down on that because it's just, there's just so many people, and it's just the way it is.
It's on par with Los Angeles traffic. If you're familiar with Southern California, getting into the Los Angeles metropolitan area, literally you are in a parking lot. I've sat in traffic for endless amounts of time in Los Angeles. The one thing I can say for Seattle is that it was slow going, but we kept moving.
Yeah, we kept moving.
It wasn't the parking lot that Los Angeles can be.
And Portland, by the way, also very beautiful.
Yes.
Big thumbs up. If I have to pick a city to live in, it's probably going to be Portland.
It's very artistic. It's artsy.
It's we drove through it Gosh, when did we drive through? What night?
That was the night before last.
Night before last. You know, it pitch dark, but the skyline was lit up really. Oh, and we just drove straight through.
Yeah.
You know, no problem, of course, at that time of night.
No.
It shouldn't have been a problem, but still, it was just absolutely beautiful. No, the problem that I have with Washington, and this is the Department of Transportation, is y'all have no clue how to close lanes. It's like they were doing, you know, America is doing bridge rehabilitation. We noticed that on the big ass trip. So apparently Congress coughed up some money. And so a lot of people are doing bridge rehabilitation, which is probably well overdue, because as you know, as budgets grow tight, things get postponed and kicked down the road. But this particular bridge, it was a 3-lane bridge, and for some reason, what we are used to is, you know, they close one lane, they open the other 2 lanes. And they reduce the speed down to like 25. That makes sense, 30.
Yep.
But for some reason, they decided to chokehold the entire traffic for nearly an hour that was barely moving north of this bridge. And then when we finally got up to it, they finally zippered us into 2 lanes. And
well, that was also a problem because I think the point where they chose to do that merge was problematic. A lot of people use the frontage road, which is completely understandable, but they had the frontage road came back on at the same point where you were zippering.
Yeah.
So you have all the extra traffic coming in at the same point, where I think, you know, they could have either closed the exit or had it closed conditionally or moved the zipper point somewhere so that it wasn't all happening at one time.
Yeah, it was just a complete amateur hour. It's like, and we, in fairness, you know, we only have this snapshot of the bridges we're going by it, but really it's after thousands of roads, and, you know, I forgot to calculate how many thousands of roads this was, but, you know, we did thousands this time and we did thousands the other time. Never have seen this kind of ridiculous choke. And I know that we're venting and there's nothing that we can do about it, but if anybody from Washington knows what we're talking about, this, you know, this is on the southern part of I-5. It's like just an amateur hour.
Yeah, and it was at a point where it was somewhat rural. It was along a river. We were past so many rivers that and actually it was funny, at one point there was kind of a party boat on the river. So traffic was all backed up and there were a lot of big rigs and everything. And the people on the party boat were trying to get the big rigs to honk their horns and they're like dancing and they're having a great time. And here we are like, but that was kind of fun. Okay, and it was sunset and there was a lot going on at that point. So the location, it should not have been as bad as it was. It was, you know, we'd gotten out of Seattle, we'd gotten out of Tacoma, we'd gotten out of Olympia, where each of those towns or cities had slower traffic.
Yes.
You know, we could use the HOV lane because we were a vehicle with more than one person and all of that. So we could get through the traffic. But this point was just, it was not fun.
It was not. It was, as I said. Okay, we're moving on. We vented. I wanted to vent, wanted to get out of the system.
Just to, you know, for anybody who's doing a road trip, and especially we saw a lot of RVs and people towing trailers and, you know, all kinds of interesting configurations of things. So if you're out on a road trip and you're tired and it's the end of the day, you don't want to get caught in one of these choke points. So, you know, our advice, I think, is pay attention to your map. When it says it's red, it's red.
It's
you know,
red.
Don't, if you can find an alternate route, which I wish we could have, we're kind of stuck, but it was, you know, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of what time you're going to be passing through a big city. Keep that in mind when you're driving around the country, because it can make a big difference in how your day goes.
Okay, so let's pivot away from that, because it's an unsolvable problem that, you know, that we have no control over. You know, other things that happened in the trip is we're checking out the Monets and the, you know, beautiful art in Portland Art Museum. By the way, big thumbs up, big 5 stars.
We're going back
Portland.
someday.
Oh yeah, Portland. We may do day trips back to Portland just to go to this museum and pals, of course, because what it is veterans and their immediate families get free admittance, and so they saved us $50.
It was a Blue Star Museum, which means a veteran and I think 5 other people.
Yeah.
So, the places that did offer us veterans discount, we really appreciate it. We got it at one of the restaurants.
Yeah, but pivoting back to Portland, Portland Art Museum, just a beautiful, beautiful museum that's currently under construction. So we're looking forward to the expansion. So once they finish, filling that hole in between the two buildings, and boy, that was a big hole. We're definitely going to make a trip back. But what was funny for us is I will always remember, I was sitting down and I was taking a break in front of these magnificent pieces of art, and I opened my phone and it's like, oh, President Biden dropped out. Wow. And I'm always going to remember that moment.
Yeah. There were actually people in the gift shop talking about it as well, because it was big news that day.
It was a big shocker, and it's like, if you ever want to know how to run a political campaign, you need to hire Joe Biden, because he knows how to do things, and he wants to drop things like that. So, whether or not we're not a political podcast, but we will say that we appreciate President Biden. So we go forward from that.
Yes. And it's, one of those situations where we don't know everything that's going on. So we're going to leave it at that. But the museum itself we were expecting to see maybe one Monet. And we found 4, I think.
I think 4, yeah.
But it's kind of a nice change, because in Paris, we specifically went out of our way to go to the Monet Museum, which, Monet was kind of hidden away in the museum that was called the Monet Museum. So it was a nice change to go in and just randomly run into a lot of Monets without having to really search for them.
But we're underselling the Portland Art Museum. We just focus on the Monets, because they had the entire range of masters, and just really good exhibits. And
they had the fascinating. There was the art of the sneaker, which I don't think either one of us was really fascinated by the subject. But I have to say, one of the brochures for the museum had a piece of art on the front that I assumed was actually a statue. I don't think I have the brochure.
You don't have it here?
I don't have it here.
Okay.
But it looked like a sculpture or something on the front of it, and turns out it was actually a sneaker.
Yeah.
And I think it was supposed to be made to resemble like alien-esque, and it was like, calf high. And if you are familiar with the Portland Art Museum and you've seen the brochure I'm talking about, you'll know exactly what I mean.
Maybe, I might take out the picture and put it up on this podcast.
I know we have the brochure.
What I was going to say is we live in a time where we're just lucky that we get to see all this we have access to all this art, and even if we had to pay full price, it would have been worth it.
Oh, yes.
But to see, the Degas and the Monets, and on and on and on. What was that one? Oh my God, my brain is just farting. The Dream State one, Chagall.
Oh yes, Chagall.
We saw a really nice Chagall. And for me, I don't know how it is for y'all, but for me to hear these names like all my life, and then being able to go up, and I could literally touch, I wouldn't, but I could literally touch
They did have alarms on them because someone got too close.
Yeah, but you can touch the canvas, and this isn't the only place we've done this, because we've been in Chicago, we've been in Paris, and Sacramento, which may not sound like a big deal, but they had a traveling exhibit there. But the Crocker is awesome.
Yes,
where you can actually touch the canvas, the same canvas that was touched by the master, is just sort of humbling, and which we wouldn't do, but still.
Well, and I took some art appreciation classes in college, so there is a lot of discussion about how the artist works, what medium they use, learning how to prime a canvas. Using the palette knives, and you can see which artists have done the really thick palette style painting versus Monet, who does more of a dreamy quality. And part of that was because toward the end of his life, Monet was losing his vision. So some of the more impressionistic aspects came about because of his physical limitations at that time. So it's fascinating to learn the background about the artists and then go to see the work they did. And coincidentally, when we were up in Port McNeil, we were out on the docks, on the piers, looking at some of the boats. And there's a boat there that I took a picture of that I am going to try to paint. This picture is really kind of stuck in my brain.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling like I may do a painting where it was within a large group of boats, but I kind of have an image of it by itself, by the island, maybe across the way. So we'll see if that turns out. Then I may post it, because it's very
Yeah.
deeply embedded in my brain right now.
Yeah, that boat actually worked for a living.
It was
Not like
really cool boat.
Not like some of the boats that were there, but that boat worked for a living. Okay, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up because we've got things we got to do. We've got to come down. Just again to remind y'all that, book 1 of the Serving Salvation series is out there, and the reduced price for Sheriff of Nevada is out there. And we're going to finish up the Bat book and get that off to the editor. We are going to finish the Bat book.
That is something else. While you were working on your social media and promoting the Serving Salvation, I was actually working on the Bat book, which was one of my goals for this trip, was to write on the road. And I did manage to do some of that. It was very bare bones, but kind of something to work toward, because we do want to be working writers who are working while we are traveling.
Right. So we're going to get that all taken care of. So, and we are definitely probably going to have at least 2 more books this year. And, we're trying not to get too focused on sales, because if you get focused on sales, it's just a frustrating thing. So what we're doing is we're just going to work hard to get these things out there. And if people, flock to them, so be it.
Well, and I think maybe both of us had the experience at Powell's where we looked at the overwhelming number of books that are available. And if you are an unknown author and, people are just browsing the shelves, they go right by you.
Yeah.
And, how do you make yourself appeal to somebody like that? Cute.
Yeah.
Now it's a cup holder. Actually, it's perfect size.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's, if you are a fellow author out there and you're feeling that sense of, why do I even bother? Because there's so much out there. Don't give up, because you will appeal to somebody someday, and they may recommend you to someone else. And if that snowballs, you can become a little bit more well-known. Maybe you'll never be Uncle Steve.
Yeah.
But, that's not our measure of success, but it would be nice if we could get a little more of that.
Never give up, never surrender.
No.
Never give up, never surrender. Okay. Yeah, we're done. We're done. We're done. So y'all take care of yourself, and if you haven't already pre-ordered it, please pre-order it. Okay. Over there's CC.
And over there's JT.
Y'all take care of yourself. Have a wonderful week. Stay out of trouble, and if you get caught, don't tell the cops anything. Bye.
Bye.